Hi, I'm Linda Newmark. I'm a member of the board of the AIMP, and it's with great pleasure that I am going to introduce today's panelists. Okay. Our program today is on 360 deals, and I will start off my introductions on the far side away from me at the table, who is music attorney Peter Paterno. Yay. Peter has been with the law firm of King, Holmes, Paterno, and Berliner since January of 1995. Peter represents a wide variety of clients in the music industry, including artists, management, producers, writers, and record labels. Peter was president of Hollywood Records from 1989 to 1994, where he signed such artists as Bush, Queen, High C, Brian Setzer, and others. Peter received his law degree from UCLA Law School and was in private practice from 1976 to 1990, where he represented clients such as Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Soundgarden, Quiet Riot, The Jacksons, Dokken, and Sub Pop Records. Please welcome Peter Paterno.
Where did they get this stuff? Very impressive. Wikipedia.
Next, in the center of the table,
right.
music manager Simon Renshaw is a principal of strategic artist management. He is a 30-year veteran of the entertainment industry, and among his best-known accomplishments is guiding the careers of the Dixie Chicks to superstardom. Simon also manages multi-platinum superstar Anastasia, pop culture phenomenon Clay Aiken, and recent country music breakout artist Miranda Lambert. Before forming Strategic in Los Angeles last spring, Simon represented those clients and others as co-head of the music department at the firm for the 4 years after the company absorbed his then Nashville-based management shop in 2001. Strategic Artist Management also recently signed American Idol finalist Bo Bice for representation and is developing several new young artists. Simon has been recognized by Pollstar with the Personal Manager of the Year Award and by the ACLU with their Bill of Rights Award. He currently serves on the boards of Rock the Vote and the Recording Artists Coalition. Please welcome Simon Renshaw. Finally, closest to me at the table here is music industry executive Jonathan Haft, who is Senior Vice President of Business Affairs at Hollywood Records, which is a division of the Walt Disney Company. Jonathan has over 25 years' experience as an attorney in the music and entertainment industries. Prior to joining Hollywood Records, Jonathan was a principal in the law firm of Lapidus and Haft, LLP. And prior to that, was a partner in the law firm of Hertz, Goldring, Lichtenstein, and Haft. Jonathan has represented a wide range of artists, songwriters, managers, music publishers, and record companies, and was previously head of business affairs for Roundor Music Publishing as well. Today, he joins our panel as the representative of the record company, trying to acquire all kinds of rights under a 360 deal. Please welcome Jonathan. And finally, it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for today's program, who is entertainment attorney and best-selling author Don Passman. I want to note that Don has been a longtime supporter of the AIMP and has been the moderator of numerous of these programs over the years, and these have consistently been among our most well-attended programs, as evidenced by today's turnout of over 250 people. Yeah. Don practices law with the Los Angeles-based firm of Gang, Tire, Raymer, and Brown, Inc. He has specialized in the music business intensively for over 20 years, and his clients include major entertainers, publishers, record companies, managers, producers, and other participants in the music industry. He is responsible for the record-breaking mega deals for Janet Jackson and REM. Don is the author of the nonfiction bestseller, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, that has sold over 150,000 hardcover copies in print. So please welcome Don Passman. Thank you.
All right. So today we're going to talk about 360 deals. And before we do that, I want to take just a minute to say how we ended up with 360 deals. Because to understand that, we need to understand a little bit about what's going on in the record business today. and viewer discretion is advised. CD sales have declined radically, which is not news to anybody here, I'm sure, but a few years ago, you could expect to be number one if you sold, say, 600,000 to 1.2 million CDs in the first week. Today, some weeks you can be number one if you sell 100,000 copies or less. In the industry's peak in the year 2000, there were 942 million CDs shipped worldwide. In 2007, there were 511 million. Now, the digital has offset this somewhat. If you look at the value of the shipments in 2000, it was 14 billion, and if you look at it in 2007, it was 10 billion. But as you can see, whatever it's offsetting it is still a radical erosion. And over the last recent periods of time, digital sales are starting to flatten because they haven't come up with a model that's really taken off and caught consumers. The streaming business is showing some promise, but the numbers are not yet significant. And evidence of the slipping CD sales was that in April of this year, iTunes passed Walmart as the #1 retailer in America. Since its inception, iTunes has sold over 5 billion downloads. Now that sounds very impressive, except every week on the pirate sites, there's between 600 to 700 million illegal downloads, which means every 8 weeks, they outdo what iTunes has done from inception. Now, on the positive side, there's more music being consumed than ever, even if it's not being paid. And there's going to be a chance in the future to sell music to people who would have never gone to record stores back when those existed. Old people. So, given this environment, record companies came to a conclusion, which basically, however they decided to sugarcoat it, was we cannot make money as a record company anymore. They take the position they're the engine driving the train. They're the ones spending money to make an artist a star. And that because of that, they think they should be entitled to a piece of the earnings from all areas, not just in records, because in fact, they are the one building the artist's career. When the 360 deals started originally, they were more like 90 or 180 or 240 deals that they would grab one or two other income streams, whatever they could get. They've now trimmed to what's called 360, meaning they try to take a piece of all of the artist's income. In the beginning, the record companies originally made the pitch of, we'll give you much more on the record side if you give us these other income streams. That lasted about 9 to 12 months. Now the record deals in 360s don't look much different from the record deals without the 360 if you look at kind of what's going on. So the question is, are 360 deals a land grab? Or are they a fair adjustment to a reality recognizing that the company is adding value to an artist's career in more than one area? And that's what we're going to look at today through a hypothetical. Simon and Peter, you represent an artist whose name is Fred. He's got 5 labels chasing him, both majors and strong independents. He's a straight-ahead pop commercial artist. Jonathan, you're very interested in Fred. So now Fred, who is me in this equation, Simon and Peter have come to Disney to discuss a deal. So I'm Fred. Jonathan, why do I need a label at all these days? I hear a lot of people just putting out their own music. Why shouldn't I do that?
Well, as you may have heard, the record industry is under a great deal of pressure, not just in terms of the revenue side, but also in terms of the cost side. With fewer retailers, we're getting a lot of pressure from the big retailers as they become more and more powerful and offer less and less shelf space. So while it is possible to follow the DIY model, it's still, in one day, it may be possible to do it on your own and become a superstar. At this point, there is still an enormous amount of mass media that needs to be, especially for a pop artist, that needs to be put to work to get that name and brand established. And without the capital to do that, it's almost impossible. I mean, there may be exceptions, but they're very few and far between. It's almost impossible to get the kind of brand awareness on a mass level that's going to begin to get this project off the ground.
Okay, but I understand you guys asked for a lot of non-record stuff in connection with it. What kind of things are you looking for?
Well, generally we're going to look for participation in touring, in merchandise and commercial name and likeness licensing, and in publishing. And I might mention the other night at the City of Hope dinner, somebody mentioned to me, started talking to me about 380 deals. So if there's another 20 degrees out there that I can grab, let me know about it.
Okay, I got it. All right, Simon and Peter, let's take a walk over to Simon's office. And is Jonathan right? Do I really need a record deal?
If you're a mainstream top 40
I am.
act,
You know that. You represent me. You better know that.
if you're a mainstream top 40 act and what you're looking for is a traditional radio launch for a traditional radio-driven pop artist's single career, the answer is probably looking at a major represents a big upside because they still have the lock to a great extent on what goes on at radio and at what goes on at pop radio. And certainly if you're interested in working in that area, the kind of money that is required for a successful artist launch in that particular area is so great, as I think it rules out a lot of the independents. Certainly, as a mainstream project, I think a lot of the independents get ruled out. And the decision for Fred becomes one of, Fred, if you want to...
Fred, I'm right here. Talk to me.
If you, Fred, if you really...
Just refer to him as that one.
If you really want a pop career and you really want to have hits at radio, then you know what? At the end of the day, we're probably going to have to talk to Disney, and we're probably going to have to come to some sort of terms because we want access to their radio promotion department, and we want access to the marketing dollars that we're going to need to drive a top 40 radio career.
Peter, you agree with that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's why I work with Simon. He's the best.
All right, now, when we were meeting over with Jonathan, he listed off all these other rights that he wants. Am I going to have to give him all of those?
Fred, Peter will deal with that in the small print show. You don't have to worry about that stuff. I can tell you that. He's really good hands.
No, we'll give him the rights. We'll just never pay him.
All right, now, are you serious?
Just sort of what they've been doing to artists like you for the last 30 years.
Yes, Fred, payback is a bitch, as they're about to find out.
So I do
ways around that.
You're not in this meeting, Jonathan.
Sorry.
So
I've told Jonathan we're not going to pay him. So I'll sign whatever you want. We're not paying you. We've been ripped off by promoters for 30 years. You don't think we can rip off business affairs guys at record companies? It's easy.
No. Are you serious about that, Peter?
That's pretty serious, yeah.
You
got two situations here, Fred. You're going to be touring clubs, right? And making no money. So what are you going to give them? You're not making any money. Or you're going to be touring arenas, at which point you're going to turn to them and say, I'm not giving you any of this money. That's really kind of how it's going to work. Or your wife will be the stage manager. She's got to get paid really well. You'll have a couple of friends that'll be the roadies. They'll have to get paid really well. What profits, Jonathan? We wouldn't make any money on that tour.
Oh,
we
okay.
grossed $93 million. We spent $94.
Okay, all right.
As
well,
always.
that sounds pretty good. Now, are they going to pay me? Are they going to pay me separately for these rights, or did I just have to give it to them because I'm giving them a record deal?
Well, you do have 3 or 4 other labels interested, and sometimes when that happens, since they're really not committed to these deals, because they've only been in existence for 2 or 3 years, so they're not really committed to them, and also because we are going to rip them off, there might be guys that are willing to just forget about it and just go for the record rights, because essentially for a top 40 artist like you, that's really where the money is. There's not that much money in touring. There might be some money in merchandising. There might be some money in endorsements, but if you're really a straight-ahead pop artist and you're not, the Jonas Brothers, that's where the money is still.
Mm-hmm. But the question is, are you going to pay me more? Are they going to pay me more for these rights, or is it just part of the package?
I think it's part of the package. You'll have to ask him.
Simon, you agree?
I meant Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan's not here.
Okay.
No, what we're going to do is we're going to construct a deal which is going to keep the record company happy, which is going to make sure that they feel that they're getting some level of reasonable return on the investment that we're going to actually try and get them to commit to make. And in return for a real commitment, then we don't philosophically have a problem with them getting a realistic return on that income. But it's all about ultimately what's realistic and how we structure it. To make sure that they don't end up with what they've traditionally ended up.
Fred, honestly, if they're willing to actually commit to spending money and commit to supporting you, then giving them these additional rights that we may or may not pay them for, it's probably not that bad a thing. I mean, again, the problem is that a lot of the deals we've been seeing, and it might be different for you because you have all this other interest, but a lot of the deals are, we're going to grab all these other rights, and we're not going to commit any more than we used to agree to commit before. And that's the hard part about these kind of deals.
Okay, so we're going to try and get some commitments built in on that for what they're going to do for me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, another question. What happens if I'm stiff as a recording artist, but I have this huge, touring career or something? Do I still have to pay these guys?
Well, I mean, it depends on the timing of that. Are you presupposing that you're going to stay making records for them? Because generally when the recording part doesn't work, they'll drop you, in which case your touring rights become free. The touring rights will be only tied up for as long as you're a recording artist for that label.
Well, but can they just keep me as an artist because they want the touring money, even if I'm not selling?
I'm sure
if they prepare to step up to the plate and continue to make and come through with the level of commitment and investment that we'd require, then they'd end up participating in the other revenue streams.
There's no protections I can build in for those kind of things, like get out of it if I'm
that depends. I mean, that again depends on how many of these 5 labels that are theoretically after you, how many of them are majors, and can you actually get anything started in between? Do you have enough leverage? Can you create enough leverage to where we can actually get one of them to back down on some of the rights and take a less aggressive position? That's really just that's a leverage question, I think.
And you'll have leverage at the time because you could either tour, you could stay home and mow the lawn with your wife and kids, and so you always have that ability to
Absolutely.
say if the money's not right, why go out on the road?
Yeah.
I live in a condo.
All right, and why go on the road? The chicks.
I've decided I want to make a deal with Jonathan. So I'd like you guys to go over there and get me the best deal that you can. Obviously, don't let him know that I've decided that because we want to keep some leverage here. But you're now meeting with Jonathan, just the 3 of you. I'm not in the room. And find out what he's going to want pretty specifically in the way of touring. Make sure that he's going to be on the net, for example, so I can play the games, or what's he going to want for merchandise and all of those kinds of things. So go ahead. You're now meeting with Jonathan.
Wow, this place looks familiar. Didn't I used to work here?
Wait a minute. Does that mean you know where all the bodies are buried?
I know where my body's buried.
Well, we should start talking about that to start with. So Jonathan? So Fred said that we should come over and talk to you about doing a deal because he apparently is of the opinion that this might be a good home for him. What kind of deal are you going to propose?
Well, it's been getting very lonely in the cone of silence over here, so I'm glad you came to visit me. Well, we'd like to make a 5-record deal, 1 album plus 4 options. We're going to ask for, well, let me ask you this, because my people haven't told me as much about Fred as I would like to know in order to make a proper proposal to you.
Yeah, why should you communicate with the people?
Yeah, I know. Well, Bob over here and Bob's been out of town.
Right.
So,
Right.
And this happened very quickly. How old is Fred? And is he somebody who is
22.
I'm sorry?
22.
22. And is he good
Incredibly
looking?
good looking.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's his bio age.
No skeletons in closets.
Well,
No closets.
The issue for me on both the touring and the merchandising side, the sort of threshold issue for me is going to be whether he is an artist who really can be leveraged. We can use our other Disney platforms, assuming that I'm really representing Disney here, to break and to leverage and to get into the public's eye, or whether he's somebody that we're going to have to break primarily through radio. But I'm going to assume that he's the latter in this case because he's probably a little older than our typical 15-year-old artist that we're signing who has a Disney Channel affiliation or Disney Channel potential. So I'm going to ask for probably about 35% of your net on the touring. I'm willing to give you some sort of threshold. I heard a lot of artists don't like to pay for this, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm going to ask for 35% of the net. I'm willing to give you some sort of threshold, earnings threshold, for which that starts to kick in. I'm going to ask for probably 25 to 30% as well on the merch side, as well as commercial merchandising, any kind of name and likeness endorsement, any use of any identification that's associated with you. And I'm going to want to make a co-publishing deal because we have a legitimate publishing company that we have, that operates independently of us.
And in return for all of these rights, what are you prepared to commit to Fred financially?
Well, do you want actual money terms here?
Yeah, I want to know how much money. Well, let's put it another way. We know that Fred's a new artist, and there's a buzz about Fred. But we know that to get from there to getting through the recording and release of the first single and working the first single, let's say that we're talking about an 18-month period, right? So let's assume that in this first 18 months we've got to make a record, we've got to build, develop an artist. So, I mean, what do you want this guy to commit himself and everything he's got going on in his life to you for the next 18 months. What are you prepared to guarantee him you're going to do in these next 18 months?
Well, what else does he have going on in his life?
Well, you
That's
just
for
took
us
it
to
all.
know.
Well, up to now.
What he has is he's got all these other record labels that all want to sign him.
Well,
And apparently your clowns in A&R, they agree with these other record company A&R clowns, so everyone wants to sign this guy, so it's really, he's going to talk to everyone about what each of them propose, right? And you know the guys at Sony BMG are being incredibly aggressive in this area now, right? So what do you propose? What do you want to do to sway him to come to you?
He's just going to wait till they all go out of business.
That shouldn't be long. No. On that note, we're probably the most successful label at this time, a fortunate position to be in. We have the ability to use our other media platforms, the studio, the channel, to some extent.
Yeah,
in
but
this
hang
case,
on, but wait a
perhaps
minute.
not so much.
But suppose I know all of that's bullshit, right? And suppose I know that at the end of the day, right, that really what you've got is you've got access to capital and you've got a great top 40 radio promotion team that I'm going to get nothing out of Radio Disney and I'm going to get nothing out of the Disney Channel because he's just too old.
Okay.
Right?
You may still get a little bit of play on Radio Disney, but...
Yeah. But we'll see. We can't... The thing is the other thing is we know, maybe we don't know, or maybe we do, but we're not... I don't know. But you can't guarantee anything on Radio Disney, and you can't guarantee anything on the Disney Channel because they all work as completely separate entities. And at the end of the day, they look at you and see if you've got something that works for them. So let's assume...
God, do I know that?
Yeah. See? Peter knowing where the bones are buried, the bodies are buried. He knows about this. So in actual fact, you've actually got, for us, nothing. All you've got is you've got an A&R department, you've got the wherewithal to help our guy make a great record, we hope, and then you've got the wherewithal to get a team of people to go out and deliver this to Top 40 Radio, if combined with a bunch of other activity that may get some attention. So, I mean, that's really what we're talking about here.
So in your mind,
it's more like your Hollywood as opposed to Disney.
Okay.
Right?
Fair enough. One thing that I'll tell you is that we don't engage in bidding wars, and we haven't since I've been there, and as far as I know, we haven't for quite a while. And if you want to go somewhere else...
I never did. Nobody wanted to sign with us. So.
And, nowadays we're extremely selective about whom we decide to offer deals to. And
yeah, but Cavala's told you to get this one. The last thing Bob said to you as he was leaving town was, don't this up.
Well, apparently you've been speaking to him more than I have recently, so...
Right? The last thing was, do not this up. I want this. Right? Lynn says this kid's a star.
I don't remember him saying that. Anyway.
That's the lack of communication we were talking about earlier.
Anyway, in your mind, we may not be that distinguishable in this respect, in this context, from our competitors. So the question is, why is it that you want to be with us? What is it that makes us more attractive? We have a great top 40, promotion team, but
sometimes
there are other pop labels that do. I mean,
sometimes.
Probably in this particular segment, we're probably less distinguishable from our competitors than we are in the more kind of tween and younger demo-oriented pop.
So how much money are you going to give us? Right. So that's all great, but how much money and what are you going to guarantee our wonderful Fred over there, right, for giving you all of these rights, and for basically, for him turning around and saying, you know what, I'm going to put my career in your hands.
Well,
And I'm going to make that my first priority. I'm going to be focused, dedicated, and hardworking, and put absolutely all of my efforts behind my career. So what are you going to do for Fred to get him to come to Burbank?
make a lot of promises.
Yeah,
No, but in any event,
But hang on, it's been
How many of those are you gonna write down?
This shit doesn't work with us. We've been doing it too long
no,
to
I
even
mean,
begin to believe
the
promises.
point is that, we're not going to overpay. We may pay more in this situation because there are 5 or 4 other labels. Some of them I happen to know are indies.
That's okay.
Most of the bidding war deals that I've seen from both sides of the table haven't really worked out. They usually end up being killed by their own hype.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to overpay.
So what do you
we're
wanna
happy
pay?
to make, well, the problem is there are people in this room I've made deals with recently. Not in this room, in that room.
Oh, in that room. But that's okay. This cone of silence.
So you underpaid them and you don't want them to...
No.
Meanwhile, Fred
Not
has
at all.
got to eat. I mean, he's got to eat.
Fred's got to eat, and we're willing to,
And he's
we're
gotta
willing
pay
to
me
pay
and
him
Simon.
enough money to keep him going for the next year to 18 months, because sometimes it takes a while. Look, he's got great songs, he's got some great demos, but the problem is, those in and of themselves are not going to break an artist. You're going to have to make a great record. It may take, he may only have 2 or 3 songs right now that we think are hit songs, and we want to have
So hang
a
on. So
serious
wait a minute.
album.
So what are you offering to commit to Fred? You offering to give him enough money for him and his family to live on for the next?
Well, how big is
18
his
months?
family?
It's just him, the wife, and
And a
new
dog.
Oh,
kid.
okay.
Let's have a kid in there because that helps with the whole
The
health
kid,
insurance.
does the kid
equation.
live with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So does the wife.
Right.
Um,
And the wife's the mother of the kid?
the wife is the mother of the kid. Though there's an issue with the hair color, but that's a whole other thing.
Let's just die.
So what do you? So, but what do you?
Look, I'm willing to pay him an in-pocket advance
Right.
and put together a recording fund that'll allow us to make a record. And look, I mean, frankly, I would prefer to give him a set advance and not worry about the recording fund, because we're ultimately, for an act like this, going to spend more than the recording fund. And I don't want to be in a position, or have
I'm
Fred
fine
in a
with that.
position.
Yeah.
No, and I don't want Fred to be in a position where people start going, well, we've only committed $300,000 in this recording fund, and gee, we're already at 500. And can we spend another dime here or not, and not make the best record we can? So it may take, us 12 to 18 months just to make the right record, and you only get one shot
Simon,
at this.
the
So what's
question,
he actually offering us, Peter?
I don't know, but the question is there's parts of what he's saying that are scaring me a little bit also, because their idea of what the right record and Fred's idea of the right record may be different things. They have like a whole staff of hacks over there that just we're going to make them sound like every other act on the label. And I don't know if Fred's going to be okay with that.
Well, I don't know
Fred
whether
thinks
that's a
he has
business affairs discsion. You should probably
It's
speak with
gonna
our
be-
A&R
well,
it's
people
creative.
first.
It's creative control.
But that all that's
all in the
about,
contract.
Do you want to be in Burbank
And
or do
we
you want
will.
to be in Santa Monica?
Right.
And, well, he's going to be on the road. He's going to be neither in Burbank nor in Santa Monica. So
Oh,
that's not
it's
really
where
a
me and Simon have
consideration.
to drive to.
Well, you did tell me out front you hate the part you hated most about the Disney job was driving to Burbank, so
That sucks.
I can understand that. We are willing to pay additional advances for these other streams, however.
Oh, okay.
And we will not cross the streams.
So maybe we get a reasonable advance against his recording rights, right? And then we could look at an additional advance and uncrossing the an interest in merchandising.
Correct.
And you really want to, and merchandising will include name and likeness in that. But again, it's uncrossed, right? And then you want a piece of the touring too.
That's correct.
But you be prepared to do that on a net basis, i.e. after my commissions and
Right.
Peter.
Well,
So after we've taken out agency,
And you'll
managers
give us
and
tour
well,
professionals-
we usually
support.
don't allow managers' commissions off the top. And we have different formulas for net that we can work out in the course of the negotiation of the long form.
Don't worry, you'll be paying my commissions off the top. However you want to think you don't get there, we'll get there. That's not going to be a problem. And we're going to do that. But let me ask you this. So that all sounds good to start with. But then you only want to make this commitment for 18 months, right? So at the end of 18 months, there's going to be some sort of option, right?
Well, no. It may take less time to make this
Right.
record. I don't know. I mean,
But there's
Peter
gonna be
over
an
here,
option
your esteemed
period.
counsel mentioned it might take up to 18 months
Right.
or one of you
Yeah,
did.
Right.
But at a certain point, you're going to have these trigger events, right? And so are you amenable to the idea then that there's some sort of, we're going to have like a reasonable trigger event that's
to get you to the second album?
That's going to get you to the second album.
No.
Right? Because what I'm looking at is, are we going to be able to, because you want to participate.
But are you saying you want to opt out?
No.
Okay.
No, but I think sort of what Simon's saying is, look, suppose it takes 18 months. That's just to make it and get the record out. Then you've got to work it, and you've got to, it might be the second single, it might be the third single. How does Fred make money? You own all his rights. He has now spent everything you gave him at the beginning. He has no way to earn money because anything he does, you participate in and use to recoup whatever you've laid out. How's Fred going to live? How's the dog going to do? How's the wife and the bastard kid going to be?
The kid is not a bastard.
Oh, I'm
He's just
sorry.
got a weird haircut.
Look, these situations happen all the time. Things take longer sometimes than anybody anticipated. We have to look at it when the time is right and say, okay, we have a real passion for what this guy is doing. We've committed in the contract to X. And if such time as 18 months has elapsed and we feel we have this brilliant record, we know that you guys are going to be back in here asking for more money. So,
but you're going to laugh at us at that point and say, no. We've got a deal already. We don't renegotiate.
Well,
here
I
at Disney.
I can't make an open-ended commitment to keep him alive for however long it takes. And these situations have to be looked at as they play out and dealt with on their terms, as opposed to some sort of speculative guess on my part as to what he might need 18 months down the line. Maybe it only takes 6 months for this record to get done and for him to get out there. I just don't know. I can't really build that into a deal at this point.
But again, you've sort of hamstrung poor Fred because he can't go to a publisher and get another advance because you own his publishing. He can't go out and work because you own his touring.
We've paid in advance for the publishing, and we've paid in advance for the touring. And if
took
you
a long
add it
time
all
to
up, I
spend
feel
it.
like there's enough money there to keep him and his family alive.
But at a certain point in time, there's got to be a moment. This is one of the problems we always end up with, is we always end up with this thing, it's just going to take as long as it takes. But what we need to do, if you want to be involved in all these other revenue streams with the guy, is we need to do it a little bit differently. We need to say, you know what, let's look at this period of time, and when we get to the end of that, we have an option to continue. And if we're going to continue, and it's based on, it's a period of time. It's not this thing of, after we've released 2 singles, that could be, if we were in Santa Monica, that could be 3 years. And that's just to get them written.
That's just to get the deal done.
Absolutely. We can't really, we don't want to go, if you want to participate in all the other revenue streams and all the other rights, and we being completely reasonable people, as we sometimes are.
Only by inadvertence.
Yeah, exactly, if we screw up. We'll agree to that, but we're saying that there has to be time periods and there has to be funding over time periods. And if you can't, if you want to continue to participate beyond a certain calendar date, right, then you're going to have to continue to advance money to keep the project going. Or you can just do a traditional record deal.
Well, unfortunately, we haven't done deals the way you've just described them. And I don't think we're prepared to start doing them in this instance.
Bob said get it done.
Well,
I keep coming back to what Bob said as he left.
I've had many conversations with Bob.
Don't make me call Abby.
In many similar situations, and there are bottom lines as to what Bob will and will not agree to. So, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. We feel like if we put this package together and pay you separate advances, not cross them, give you enough money, more money than Fred's ever seen in his life, I'm sure, to date.
That's not a lot, believe me.
That, if he manages it properly and we get through this process and he's still, through no fault of his own, is in need of something more, we're not going to see him thrown out on the street.
Trust us?
Trust us.
Just like we've been doing for the, yeah.
By the way, don't you owe me an accounting on one of those merch deals that we did a few years ago?
Actually, I didn't hear him, so I couldn't really make a witty retort. But anyway, yeah.
So, here we are, screwed again.
All right, so... all right, now it's...
Keep the new boss, same as the old boss.
Same as the old boss, here we go.
You've left Jonathan, and now it's just Fred come into your office. So how'd we do over there?
Fred, you're It's really simple. It's just a question of whether you're going to enjoy it or not.
Well, how much money did you get me?
You wouldn't say.
They wouldn't actually commit to a dollar figure.
Isn't that a little hard to evaluate the deal if they don't tell you?
He was afraid of creating a precedent that would get spread around the industry.
I think you should give him a call and find out what he's going to pay me.
Well, I mean,
Simon couldn't have tried any harder.
I gave him all the rope.
Short of bringing forceps into the next meeting, that's the best we could do.
It's a number between 0 and something. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when artists used to come in, they used to say to you, yeah, okay, I understand. So I'm going to get like 18 points. What does that mean? And you go, whoa. A number between 0 and something. I couldn't really.
Not more than a national debt.
Yes.
Okay.
So now what do we do? So anyway,
Well, all right, guys, you're my advisors. What do we do?
call Jimmy. Call Jimmy or call Stringer.
All right, I'm Jimmy.
AIMP's got no
You want to
money.
call Jimmy? I'm right here. You want to call Jimmy? Call Jimmy. Hi.
Where's the baseball cap?
Yeah, come on, I'm busy.
Couldn't we just speak to Cohen? It's a lot easier.
Sure, hold on.
Yeah, here's Cohen. Can't
Yo.
get an answer out of him. It'll be just
It's
like
Cohen.
this
What
guy.
is it?
Well, if it's Jimmy, you'll just tell me everything I want to hear, right? And then you'll make me call then you'll probably make me call
You got
Rand.
Cohen on the phone. Is this what you want to be telling him?
Well, no, I mean, we would go through the same exercise.
No, not would. You talk to me. I'm David Cohen.
Oh, you're
All right.
David Cohen.
Yeah, that's what you wanted, right?
Go.
Hey, David, if you're willing to do a straight-up record deal and give him $100,000 on signing, Fred's yours.
Now I got to have 360 rights.
Well, then he's not yours then.
Bye.
Let's call Rob Stringer.
All right, it's Fred back in the meeting. Look, I want you to call Jonathan. I got to know what I'm getting here, or I can't evaluate the deal. And I also want to know, is the only thing he's getting a piece of touring and merchandising, or is he going to want anything else?
No, he
Because
wants-
I keep hearing from friends of mine that people want fan clubs, and they want,
He didn't mention any of that.
yeah,
He-
they want
he just-
acting, or they
he
want
kinda
book
did.
writing and
No,
stuff
he
like
didn't.
that. No, but
Didn't mention
I want to make clear. I just need to
No,
understand.
he was very clear. It was touring, and it was name and
Merchandise.
likeness, merchandising, and publishing.
Publishing.
And I heard they were all uncrossed.
Yes, that's
Right?
right.
And when you call him, since he seems a little reluctant, tell him that we're not going to tell a soul.
Right. Trust us.
Trust us.
And it's without any precedent.
Does Leventhal count as a soul?
Right.
Okay, call Jonathan.
Jonathan, we just talked to Fred. He was really unimpressed with your non-existent offer. So he wanted us to get some clarification about sort of a number of things, the rights and the money, and what rights you want and the money. And the money. First of all, let's just clarify, when we're talking about a 360 deal, exactly what areas do you feel like you should commission? I mean, that you should participate in?
Anything that's basically driven by your music career. Which
So if Fred decides to make his current relationship official with the bastard child and gets married and there's wedding photos we can sell, you would participate in that?
let's get serious.
I just sold wedding photos for $2 million, so that's serious.
Wedding photos and children.
Well, if you sell them for $2 million, it means this guy's a superstar. So, if it's selling his name and likeness and he's making money from it, then we want to participate. If it happens during the term.
Let's call Jimmy.
Now, I know you're looking to see how much money I'm willing to pay you.
Right.
Because I somehow managed not to tell you that, and
The money.
you're still calling me back. So,
So now we can really insult you.
Right.
so I'd be willing to give something in the neighborhood of, say, I don't know, $75,000 as an in-pocket advance, plus for the record side, plus maybe another 35 to 40 on the publishing side, on the theory that until such time as we break a record and spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars getting to the point where the publishing is actually worth something, we should have some participation in that. We don't feel we should have to pay for our own success. And I'll give you, let's say, $30,000 a piece for the two other streams, the merchandising and the touring. So if you add that up,
Yeah, that's nothing. So you got it up, it's a publishing deal.
And how long's this for?
Have you made a publishing deal lately for an unsigned artist?
No, but we're going to get him signed.
But-
Well, if you get him
how long
signed,
is
that's
it-
great,
how
but
long-
I'm not going to sign him without a publishing deal.
But
Well,
you're
what
going to pay
what
us.
if I do the publishing deal before I come talk to you? Which is something that's really viable. If I have 4 labels bidding, I know I can get a publisher and make a deal. So I don't have the publishing anymore. I made a deal with Warner Chappell. What are we doing now? Are you out?
It depends.
Because I know
You know,
Jimmy
I'm gonna
doesn't,
have-
Jimmy
I'm
doesn't
gonna
have
have
to
to
have
talk to Bob.
publishing. I know that. Jimmy doesn't have to have the publishing.
I'm going to have to talk to Bob about that. How long is your publishing deal for?
3 albums.
3 albums, so I'm going to want to have a right of first negotiation and matching right on publishing deal after that deal expires.
It doesn't bother me because I
Okay.
won't do another deal after this one. So it's
There you
okay.
go. Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
you give
There's
us.
a possibility. I can talk to Bob about it, see how badly he wants this act, and
You want to talk to Bob? I'm right here. If you want to call out the other room and call him.
Hey,
Bob calling from London.
Bob,
Yeah.
you willing to do that deal without publishing?
Don't screw it up.
Why? It's like
No.
the walls are closing from both sides.
What do you think?
Well, it's funny because yesterday they didn't have a publishing deal, and today they do. So,
Well, do they
I don't know.
really-
Are they being
you-
straight with
No,
us?
doesn't hang
You
on.
didn't close yesterday.
Excuse me, you guys are not in on this phone call?
Okay. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So, I mean, clearly, they may have talked to somebody about a publishing deal, but, the fact is they probably haven't signed one yet. And I don't know, some of our competitors are out there looking for publishing deals as part of their 360, some aren't. So, depends on how badly you feel a participation in the publishing is worth. Maybe you want to think about administration instead of co-publishing. I don't know. That's always an option.
Okay, use your best judgment.
So, we're going to want some participation in publishing. And don't tell me you made a deal with Warner Chappell yesterday because that ink isn't dried, I'm sure.
No, but we made a commitment, and we don't go back on our commitments.
Well,
Fred's an honorable guy.
we're not willing to make a deal without some sort of participation in publishing.
Well,
So,
I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to give you the remnants of whatever I get after I've given them their share. That's ridiculous. We're not going to do that.
I don't know what to say. I mean, if we have no participation in publishing, it may not be a doable deal, but let's talk about the other revenue streams. So we're talking about $30,000 for the other two. It's about $135,000 if you add it all up. If we get into a situation maybe 7 or 8 months down the line where we haven't released the record because he's working, maybe we can build in some sort of monthly stipend to keep him and his family under a roof and with food on their table, but that's going to have to last only for...
Starting when and ending when?
Well, maybe starting about 6 months after the deal starts and ending maybe 6 months thereafter, or maybe 9.
Stipend being roughly.
Well, a couple of grand a month just to kind of keep him afloat.
This is LA we're living in. This guy is
Well,
actually.
but he's
this guy
living up in
lives LA.
Silmar. Come on.
No. He actually lives in West Hollywood
With his
with his wife
Husband.
and a
And his
strangely
boyfriend.
Husband.
hair-colored child. But let's assume that we could be realistic and talk more about sort of like $4,000 or $5,000 a month. How long? And you'd see that kicking in 6 months after.
Well, let me ask you
after
this:
start.
Are you anticipating that this guy's presumably he's a solo artist? He's going to have a band. We're
Right.
going to presumably have to be paying some serious tour support at some
absolutely.
point. So
Well, you own the
you start
song
adding
rights.
that into the equation. We're talking.
But we
about,
don't know he may just perform to track. We don't know yet. It's a top 40
Well,
thing. Let's
well.
not worry about it.
Well,
Let's
I have to worry
just
about it,
focus
unfortunately.
on. So you're going to pay $130,000 to sign the guy.
135.
$135,000 to sign the guy, and then after 6 months' time, you're going to start paying him $5,000 a month as a stipend, right?
until.
And that takes.
Well, I didn't say 6,000 a month. I said 2,000 a month. But
We'll call it 4,000.
Right.
And
No, let's call it 6.
no, it's a harder number to multiply than 4. Let's call it 4,000 a month. Let's assume it starts 6 months after you've signed him, right? How long would that continue for?
at that rate, it would have to continue for no more than 6 months.
No, it'd have to continue since you have so much control over the record.
But we have a deal then that's a year-long deal. So what happens at the end of the year?
It's a year-long deal?
Well, you sign him.
What
then
happened to the
six-
$135,000 we gave him?
Yeah,
You think he and I work for free?
Right.
Well, yeah. That's what Peter was saying at lunch.
That's just for Eddie Van Halen.
No. Peter was saying at lunch he can't collect from so-called paying clients.
So in theory, he doesn't work for free, but in practice.
Right,
In practice,
right,
yeah.
right. I send out bills, but they're works of fiction.
But You sign him, we have 6 months. The kid's already gone into debt. He's had to do all these demos. He got all this stuff started that got you guys interested in the first place. So let's assume that, 6 months in, he goes on a stipend. 6 months later, he ends the stipend. Here we have the problem. Now we've got an artist who runs out of money after a year, right? John Lynn still can't get the mix right on the first single.
John Lynn
right?
has never failed to get a mix right.
And not only that, you're so blocked up with other acts, right? We have to wait another 6 months before we get a shot at getting a record out.
You're gonna
That's
have
then
to
gonna
come
take
talk to us at
another
the
6
time.
6 months to find out if you got something.
And all the time, you've acquired all of these revenue streams, right?
Which at this point are worth nothing because they're not generating any income.
Well, I mean, he could go make a publishing deal. At least he gets some money
I
from
thought he
that.
made a publishing deal.
He did make a publishing
Oh, he
deal.
did.
Well, we committed to making a publishing deal.
We'll go hit the publisher.
No, but you've got... But
And by the way, what are you going to do with that advance you got from the publishing deal? You got to add that.
he's got a lot of bills. It was the last trip to rehab. That's a whole mess out there.
So Bob, do we really want to sign this guy? He just got out of rehab for the third time.
It was a publicity stunt. He was dating Lindsay or someone. It was cool.
Try to hook up. He's not a drug addict. What kind of
question
musician?
there? I'm sorry.
No, I'm waiting for Bob to tell you not to this up.
You want to call Bob?
I sort of just did, but Bob, come on, they're really pressing hard. I've offered them effectively about $150,000, a little bit more. We're not going to get the publishing. He's just gotten out of rehab. Do we want to take the chance that this guy is actually going to, live up to his potential and perhaps overpay beyond what we're willing to pay and make deals on terms that we're not willing to make deals on for other acts, or should we walk away, or should I keep pushing back? Because I don't know how serious they are about some of the stuff they're saying. So,
Well, I heard the rehab was a publicity stunt, so that doesn't bother me. He's a good kid, this guy. I want you to make a deal that works for everybody, but don't lose it.
hold on.
What was wrong with private
I need a
practice
Valium.
again? It was like, didn't you like it on our side, the table, more? I mean, was it really?
Most deals aren't this hard.
Oh, yes, they are.
And getting harder.
Not for me. Usually I
But
get
this
what
guy,
I want.
Yeah, but this guy's 22, not 15.
Right.
So he's not managed
So wait,
by...
what are you saying? He's over the hill?
He's not managed by mom.
He's not managed by a mom.
Not
That's a
managed by a
plus.
mom. And
There's
you have-
$100,000 right
But I
there.
heard he's actually your illegitimate child.
That's the other. Never mind. So you're going to come back to us, and we're going to do a little bit more of the dance.
But Simon, seriously, 3 years ago we could make a record deal for $750,000. Now we're talking about $150,000 for every possible conceivable right. What are we doing here? Maybe he should just make records on his own.
3 years ago, a number one Billboard charting record, sold 1 million plus. Now, you're lucky if it's 150.
The problem I have with the whole thing is even if we do this deal with him, it doesn't guarantee us anything in terms of do we actually end up with the right music. I mean, traditionally, it means that we're going to get A&R guys involved, and this kid's vision, Fred's vision, could become quickly polluted. And it doesn't guarantee anything with respect to that. There's been no mention of any guarantees that are going to be made with respect to what they will really commit to launching this thing at Pop Radio. There's no real commitments other than some initial financial commitments, and that's it. And you have to wonder in this day and age where there's a buzz going on with the kid. There's more than one place interested. At the end of the day, do we need to do a record deal right now? Are there other people out there who could be partners? In the new environment, more than doing the deal with Disney.
Yeah, to be really fair, not that I want to help Jonathan out, there's really not been an artist, especially the kind of artist that Fred is, that's broken anyway other than through a traditional record company. You don't want to doom his chances of having success. We can come up with all sorts of theories about how to do this, but none of them has worked, and it's maybe a little, we should ask Fred if he wants to be the guinea pig.
So look, there are reasons that you chose to negotiate with us, and presumably, I'm assuming you're not negotiating with everybody else at the same time. Right.
Right. Why would you presume that?
So if
Just
there
because we
is a
told
reason,
you that?
Obviously, our reputation has not preceded us.
If you truly want to be with us, clearly it's because you feel that A, we have a creative vision that perhaps meshes well with Fred's, B, that we have the resources within the company, and I'm not talking about just the cash, but the resources within the company to break him at radio, which is, as you've said, the only way that an artist like this is going to break. There have to be some other reasons, I'm assuming, and even though he may not be a Disney Channel, appropriate artist, there are plenty of shows that we've managed to get artists on ABC Network, ABC Family, the studio, and we've been pretty good. Excuse me. Is there any water? We've been pretty successful at actually using the other divisions of the Walt Disney Company to get the acts that we've signed in front of the public. You can look at the Plain White T's, you can look at Maria Digby. They're in shows on ABC, ABC Family. We're getting into films in high-profile ways. We are probably the only record company that has a very good working relationship with its affiliates in the other media.
God, has that changed?
And it has.
Well, okay, so you're talking us into it.
Right. I mean, again.
So we're going to tell Fred.
All right, here I am. Now
were
it's
you?
just Peter and
hey, John,
Simon.
there's water
Meeting
right
with
there.
Fred. Where?
Right, I'll get it.
We've done, Fred. We've done the best we're gonna do. It's the right label for you. You're gonna get about 135 grand in cash.
You guys have never even asked for more.
Huh? We're going to get about 135 grand in cash. We're going to get some reasonable monthly living allowance. There's not really there's no real commitments much beyond that other than to love, honor, and work with you, all of which they'll break very quickly. But this is really the best deal we've got going on. We've got some revenue streams that they want to tap into. They've made some big concessions because they're not going to cross them. We just have to go in there and now figure out the percentages on the deals and what they all mean. But we can't do that if you don't actually want to go, if you don't want us to go and close this deal, because the rest of this stuff, once you got beyond this point and we start getting into the back end of the deal, there's not much point going there if we can't agree on this front end.
Peter, what do you think?
I agree with Simon, as always.
Okay. And so let me just understand this. How long, when after this deal is over, do I have to keep paying him on anything other than the records and stuff?
Well, I mean, again, I didn't get into that point totally with them, but generally the way this works is it's coterminous. All these things end at the same time.
So if I'm like in the middle of a tour, for example, that they only get paid up to the end of the deal?
No, they'll probably be you'll probably be on some sort of cycle basis.
Okay.
Again, it's not.
But we'll work that out.
That's not a big issue.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Then generally, you think that's about the best we can do?
Well, if you want to be here, and if you want to be at Disney.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, then
this is going to be great.
This is going to be.
This is the best decision you've ever made after you hired us. Second best decision you've ever made.
All right. Terrific. So with that, let's end the hypothetical. And would any of you like to make any kind of a closing couple of remarks? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I think I've said enough.
The 360 is here to stay. Welcome to it and enjoy.
It's actually interesting. There's a couple of things. First of all, it may be here to stay. I'm not convinced it's here to make any money for the record companies. I think they may be kidding themselves, but we'll see if that comes true. And the only thing that I don't really know why I'm focused on this, but this concept that there's more music being consumed now than ever, I don't really totally believe. And I think that somebody might want to do an empirical study of that. I think everybody says things. They become like truisms because everybody said it enough times. But I get a sense that people aren't really consuming music in any greater quantities, and probably could be less. There's video games, there's distractions, it's background, it's on the computer. Just because you have 10,000 files doesn't mean you listen to 10,000 files. I'm not convinced that music is important or as a consumer, or as being consumed in the way that it was, and with the passion that it was, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I just throw that out there.
Yeah, and to Peter's point, whether record companies will end up making money on these deals, it's hard to say because we haven't been making these deals for all that long, even though my company has been making them as far back as 2003, I believe, and I think we were sort of ahead of the curve.
Well, no, I mean, I don't want to live. We had an act that was off the Disney Channel. It was called The Party, and it was the first thing that I signed when I was at Hollywood Records, and it was this deal. But I kind of view the Party and the, not the Jonas Brothers, but like Hannah Montana's, again, I don't know her deal, but sort of is different because they're more like employment deals. It's more like the Pussycat Dolls deal where really they're not 360 deals. They're just basically you work for us kind of deals. And those you can make money at because you control all the income streams.
Well, yeah, and that's not the Jonas Brothers deal.
Yeah, no, I know it's not the Jonas Brothers deal because they were.
Yeah, I mean the deal that we talked about is not the kind of deal that we make. We make about that deal maybe about 50 to 60% of the time. The other 40% of the time or 50% of the time we're making deals where we actually do control the rights. But if we are producing the concerts, there's real money to be made, and we have made money doing that.
Yes.
And we've made a lot of money for the artists as well. I mean, because we can do it at a higher level than they can do it on their own. I mean, if an artist is playing clubs, we're probably not going to be able to sell out arenas from the get-go. But if there is a tie-in that we can actually use some of our other Disney assets to leverage to a higher level, we can actually play bigger venues, get better deals with the promoters, get better deals with the venues, and make money for everybody. But I mean, the type of deal that we just talked about, I mean, we've been making them for a while, and Peter apparently was a visionary. He made them quite a while ago before I even became aware of what Hollywood was doing. But until the artist actually becomes really successful, having a percentage of touring and merchandising just doesn't mean a whole lot in terms of bottom line dollars.
We're certainly seeing 360 deals, everywhere all the time. I agree totally about. I think there's two types of deal. There's the deal that we've been talking through today is very much a new artist signing kind of deal, as opposed to some of the other things which are more properties and rightly employment deals. And I think those are fine. I think at the end of the day, it's what we as managers are looking for right now is we have to really be concerned with, do we have the right partner in terms of being able to generate additional media impressions beyond the sort of the purely traditional avenues, and what kind of partner the record label and the publishers can be in terms of sync and in terms of placing artists, in terms of placing the artist's music and different things. I mean, kudos to Disney and Hollywood. I mean, they are definitely an example of a label that's very, very successful at that. And I think, and generally the one thing I will say is that when the 360 concept first came up, a lot of us were on the management side. We were really opposed to it because what we looked at was labels getting involved and labels trying to come in and just doing land grabs on rights and getting involved in things that they really had no business being involved in.
And added no value.
And they added zero value. I think we are seeing, though, we are seeing a change in that, because I think that one of the things that is happening is that we're seeing labels being more proactive in terms of how they're placing name and likeness, and how they're being able to integrate artists and their music across different platforms and with different brands and different marketing partners. And to that extent, they are adding value. And I certainly don't have an issue with their participation in any of the other revenue streams. It really does, at the end of the day, for me, become far more of an issue of is their interest in the revenue stream? Yeah, does the return match the investment, and is it all fair? And if it's fair, if they're going, if a label's going considerably at risk, right, then they should be entitled to receive considerable reward. That's business and normal.
One thing, again, I know that when I did the Party deal, the managers, let's talk about the managers. I hired the manager. I paid the managers. Is that, yeah. The manager wasn't, is that how do you incorporate managers in these employment type deals?
We haven't really.
You don't have any managers.
No, I mean, they're managers who come with each act that we have. I mean, we haven't signed an act without a manager, and we haven't been in a position to employ the manager and assign that manager to an act.
Because the income is just cut so drastically that, it might be hard to find a good manager.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about that in Nashville, when we've done some Nashville deals about, kind of bringing in kind of a manager who can kind of take it to a certain point and then bring in the Simons and people like that.
All right, we have unfortunately hit the House of Blues curfew and need us out of here.
Right.
So join me in thanking the panel.
Load out.
Crew's up on stage, taking the mics down.